and welcome to the 757 Spy Flight on YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Dave. I do the Spy Flights over on Twitch, and every now and then I like to come over here to YouTube and do what I call a complete cold and dark flight. This is from completely power off airplane, and let's see if we can't get it up into the air, cruise, and go ahead and do a landing. And if you saw the picture of the airplane as we were getting going, this is the pilot's Dash-7. So I still call it the Dash-8 somewhere up here. I need more coffee. But this is the Dash-7. It's got 4 engines on the wings. This was the airplane before the Dash-8. And if you're looking for a nice little turboprop just to play around with, this is actually kind of fun. So what are we going to do today? Let's take it on a route that this thing used to fly, Kalispell to Seattle. We're departing off of Kalispell's runway 2. This is going to be a VOR to VOR flight. I'll show you how I did my VOR to VOR flight planning. Seattle is landing south on the 16s. Let's call it 16 Rider Center. Our cruise altitude is only 16,000 feet. Now the flight time's 2 hours and 20 minutes, so we'll pause in the middle of the video during cruise so that we can go and get a little more coffee. It is a 435-mile flight. Let's see, that's the wrong graphic, but we've got this one over here. This is a real-world weather and time flight, and Horizon, Alaska's commuter airline, does really fly this flight. We're going to do VOR to VOR navigation, and I use SkyVector to try and put my flight plan together. I'll be showing you that too. So if you got the pilot's airplane and you want to learn how to fly it, we can learn together because I've only had this recent for a couple of days now. But fly along with me. Pause and restart the video and go back and see if you missed one of the buttons that I was pushing. I also like to suggest after you do a fly along like this, hop into your airplane and do what I call your hometown flight. Take off from your hometown airport and go someplace. That'll probably help out a little bit. Okay, shall we hop into the cockpit and do that flying thing? So here we all are here. A couple of things that I've already gone and done. First of all, in the cockpit here, one of the things that's a little on the annoying side is they will put AI co-pilots and stuff like that in it. Not AI, but there's just a 3D model in there. First of all, most of them look a little creepy. But second, that it adds a little bit of, it's just one more thing that the computer has to draw. So trying to get rid of that co-pilot, basically before you start the airplane, you go into the weight and balance, and before you start, turn it to 0. Okay, so turning it to 0 is pretty easy. Fact is, let me show you how to do it because, again, it's easy. Let's exit to the main menu here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And while we're doing that, let's see, what was I going to do here? I was going to push the sound button. So we're going to exit out, and I'll show you where to go and set this. We're going to Kalispell Airport. And by the way, we're just using default airports on this one, too. So there's my airport. It's already selected. Let's go to the world map. Now my airplane is already selected here, and I've been using, by the way, I got the aircraft manager, and it's really nice for being able to go and preset your aircraft control presets. Why do I like that? Anyhow, come on down here, and I've hit weight and balance. So aircraft selection, we've selected the airplane. And by the way, I'm doing a Horizon, and I'm just using the basic radio on this. But now we go to weight and balance, go to the co-pilot, and just go 0 and enter. Okay? Just 0 and enter. And that's all you got to do. Now we'll go and select our departure, and we're going to KGPI, Glacier Park. It's going to zoom out and zoom in, and then we're going to go over here to the one gate. There's actually 2 gates that don't have jetways here at Kalispell, and let's hit fly. And that gets rid of the annoying co-pilot there. So you don't have somebody sitting next to you that's kind of like moving around here. But most important, if you don't have a top-of-the-line computer, your computer doesn't have to spend the resources to draw a creepy fake person. Okay, so let's talk about a few other things that we've done so far while the airplane is loading. Right now, I've got a flight plan already set, and I've copied it into Navigraph. But again, this is going to be a VOR to VOR flight plan. So how did I go about doing that? Well, I use a little thing called SkyVector. And Sky Vector is really pretty cool. It's free, link in the description, of course. And this way you can go and look at a real world map. By the way, this is a real world planner, so don't create a login and don't try and file a flight plan, because if you do, it's a real world flight plan. So anyhow, you can go and choose VORs, and you can then go and take those VORs and go ahead and plug those things into a SimBrief flight plan, which is what I did. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can go into SimBrief and have it generate a VOR to VOR flight plan, but I don't know if this makes me a control freak or whatever, but I just generally like to do my own flight plan like that. And so there we are. We're going to come out. Let's see, what is that? Oh, that's Topo Climb. So there's our flight plan. It did limit my cargo a little bit. And I've also got all of my stuff in kilos. It seems like Microsoft Flight Simulator just plays nicer in kilos, especially with some of these airplanes that don't have custom ways to load the airplane and stuff. So we're over here at Glacier Park Airport. We're going to be taxiing over to runway 2, departure, left turn, out we go to our first waypoint. Coming in, it's runway 16. We're going to go to the Payne VOR and take us straight into runway 16 here. We'll probably exit at the Mike taxiway. Look both ways before you cross the other runway. And Horizon parks over here in the Q concourse. Probably they also call that the Q continuum. All right, so now what do we do? Well, the next thing is to go ahead and load the airplane. This is not going to be a perfect loadout here, okay? It's going to be a little bit, it's a slightly dodgy way to do this. Other airplanes have it better, but this is how you basically load it right now. And the first thing that we need is, we're going to do it all in kilos. So let's look over here and get our fuel. Our fuel for the flight is 2,958. So the best way that I know how to do that is, first of all, put it over, well, it says pounds. I'm going to put it over into kg. And then what we'll do is take the fuel and just dump it all the way down, and then start to move this up until you get 2,958. And the number you're looking for, see, it says fuel and maximum. So 2,958. Slide, slide, slide. There's 1,000, 2, 3, 4. Up there it is. 29, and I'll bring it back down. 298, 294. So 2,980 kilos. It's the best we're going to be able to do on that, unless you want to put individual numbers in. Then as we come over here, you see the co-pilot is still to 0. We're going to leave that co-pilot to 0, and then I'm going to try and put in my 0 fuel weight, or actually no. See, this is another thing that's a little funky about this. This will give you a payload, but it doesn't give you the 0 fuel weight. Arrgh, growl. So what we got to do is come over here, and we're going to get our payload. And that's usually on the Lido style of charts. You can get that here on page 3. Payload 4354. So what we'll do over on that one is, right now my payload is 2527. We're going to start to move that up. Uh-oh. Now our CG is out of limit. So we're going to do that and go ahead, and also I'm going to put this back to 0. We do not want to load a co-pilot. And that looks good. It's still a little heavy. So we're going to draw this back. There's payload, max payload, 21. Okay, still out of limits here. All right, we'll zero it out. There we go. So now we'll start to move it forward, and we'll get rid of the co-pilot as we move forward. So I'm just sliding the payload slider over here. We're 21% until we get to out of limits. Okay, so we're only going to be able to load this. And if you try to move the payload, the CG slider, doesn't work. Then we'll also come over here and again, zero out the co-pilot. Oh, we're out of limits again. Oh, and I think maybe that's because we're off to the side, maybe. So let's see if we can slide that. See, I can't do anything with the center of gravity on this one. So let's continue to go and slide that. Get rid of the co-pilot. You see, it really does become a giant pain. All right, so we're just going to fly it slightly. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it is moving slightly forward and aft here. So, all right, well, we'll just leave it in there. Let's go ahead and move it over there, and we'll just put up with the annoying co-pilot. Okay, so this is the boundaries of limits here. So my max payload is 1339. Again, I'm not able to move this one, so I think that's as good as it gets. And, oh, well, hey, look at that. We can go and still load that in there, but the creepy person isn't sitting there. Okay, so now we're pretty well loaded. Not that kind of loaded. And now we can come back here, and if you want, you can come to the back of the airplane and open the door. First time I tried to fly this, I then couldn't close the door. So I had to exit out. So you can open and close the door. But basically at this point in time, the airplane's loaded. So there we go. Let's see here. I should have a cheat sheet just to remind me of a couple of things. Okay, so I have a couple of views here. So you're going to be able to need to see the control panel. Well, there is a control lock over here. So there's this control lock, and if you put it in, it basically locks your yoke forward, and I can't see anything. And if I can move a little bit closer, but it really makes it kind of hard to see. So the control lock moves the yoke so far forward, I can't see my controls. So you would have the control lock on, but there you go. I'm also just going to push my yoke here. I'm going to go over here and push this stuff, and I'm going to make sure that all this works. And I also don't need that. The props do have beta. Now, this is a 4-engine airplane. Most of us have 2 throttle levers, right? So my left throttle lever is engine 1 and 2. My right throttle lever is 3 and 4. And that's about as good as I think most of us are going to get on this. So we can come up here, and it's time to turn power on the airplane. And we do that over here. And we're going to start off with the battery, AC gen, and DC gen switches. And the sounds on the airplane are pretty good. They're not great, not terrible. So that's pretty good. Now after that, we can do the left and right batteries, and that's over here. So left battery, right battery on. That looks good. We could also turn on the DC external power. So we're going to do that, and then make sure that the bus ties are closed. If they are open, they make a horrible screeching sound. Okay, so with that, we can slide over here, and we're going to do our position lights. So position lights are going to go on, and that looks good. Emergency lights, the emergency exit lights need to go on too. I think those are down here. So here's emergency exit lights, go to arm. And I usually turn on no smoking because you're going to fuel the airplane at that point. All the way at the top up here is the cabin lights. So we're going to go ahead, and I usually just during a daylight flight, I'll just crank all the cockpit lights all the way up. And then there's the emergency locator transmitter up here. You dial this down 1 click to auto. And that looks really good. If you go down a little bit further, there is a fire panel over here, and you can do a short test on the fire panel. I haven't tried the other kinds of tests. It doesn't fire off any warnings, but it does turn on all the lights there. And then the last thing to do is you would check your windshield heat, and it is in the warm-up position. And we've got that all ready to go. Next step in the process is to go ahead and do set your altimeter. And this is a little weird. So I turned up all of these lights, but the one thing that didn't turn up here is this. So do I have pilot's instrument console? And we'll turn that up about halfway, and now we can see the instruments a little bit better too. I do have real world weather cranked in here right now. You can do several things. There are several places to go on the internet to get the real world weather, or you could hit the B button and nothing happens. So let's just go and check and see. You can go over here and check. Actually, one of the nicest places that I never think to check is Navigraph. See, Navigraph has got weather. Let's go to airports. There we go. Let's go to information and weather. And there's our ATIS right there. Now, that's for SeaTac, Seattle. Let's go to Glacier Park and weather. Hey, look at that. The altimeter is 2982. So hitting the B button didn't do us any good, did it? for the altimeter. So 2982 is our altimeter setting. But that was really, really nice. It's got this all set up for you so you can get your weather. You can also do information and runways. We're going to depart off of runway 2. You can basically take a look and see which is a good runway, and it does a little fast runway analysis for you. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is set runway heading and an initial altitude. So let's go over here to the charts, and our runway heading is going to be 020. And that's what we're going to set down here. 020 is going to be our heading bug. So there's 03, so there is 020. Our initial altitude, so we're not doing an actual star going out or anything like that. Glacier Park is 3,000 feet above sea level. So we can set our initial altitude. For a flight like this, let's just go with our cruise, which is 16,000 feet. Let's just make it as simple as we can on this. So we'll just hold that down and let it crank, 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 crank. 10,000, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. 15, there is 16,000 feet. So there is our initial altitude. Now then, we need to turn on the radios here. So I've got just the basic Garmin's loaded in this airplane. You can also load the nicer Garmin's, so you can put a waypoint to waypoint if you'd like to do that too. Okay, so while that's doing its thing, I used something like I said called SkyVector to go and do the flight plan. And one of the cool things you can do after that is hit the navlog button. And holy moly, look at that. It gives you all sorts of information, including, most importantly, your frequencies for your VORs. It gives you a true heading and a track right to that VOR. Gives you distance and just everything you need to know. So I've actually exported that, and that is over here in my flight plan file, my PDF file here. And I've got it under something called navlog. And here it is. And I'll actually save the navlog to the desktop along with the flight plan that I'm going to have. So I just keep these right here and really handy. And that's really, really nice for that. And in fact, the next thing to do is let's set our frequencies. So our first frequency after departure is going to be Spokane, 115.5. So let's go ahead and press, okay, more coffee needed. We're going to go and push the CV button, and then we're going to set that frequency 115.5. That's our first VOR, and I'm going to make that active. My next VOR is 114.35. So 114.35, and I'm going to have that on standby. But I'm going to slide over here to the co-pilot side. Same thing, 114.35. And I'm going to make that one active. So nav 1 is where we're going first. Nav 2 is where we're going second. And that's and I'll show you how I do that. And then our true heading, what is that going to be? That is going to be 251 degrees. Magnetic heading is going to be 238. I'm going to set that course heading in here. So 238. Just spin this around. Keep going. 238. 238. Okay, that's good too. Our runway heading is set. Our VOR is set. So basically, our navigation is set pretty much as good as it's going to be. Let's come over here. We've got passenger signs up above the co-pilot's head. So passengers are aboard. Let's do seatbelts. Seatbelts just went on. That's looking pretty good. Probably time for us to start thinking about starting up the old engines here. And it's pretty simple here. First of all, we also need to come up here and do the red beacon. So the red beacon is up here. So position lights are on, red beacon goes on. And that looks good too. The engine start order is 3, 4, 2, 1. So the inboard engine on the co-pilot side is first. And we do that by coming up here and doing the start selector to number 3. And then we're going to go and hit the actual starter here. And this is going to start going up. But what's also going up here is the NG. And when NG gets up to, so there's the initial green zone right there at about 20. We're going to come over here and do the first condition lever. And we're going to move that to the first position. And we've got a propeller spinning. So that looks pretty good. Now, the next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and move over and start engine 4. And I've left the starter button just on. So 4, we'll look down there. There goes the NG up there. And that's looking good. Still climbing, 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 climbing. That looks good. Condition lever can go up. And that's going to start another engine. Now, we still have DC power plugged in right now. So DC power, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the DC power here. And this is external power. We're going to go ahead and turn that off now. So that can go off. Now we're going to go and start engine number 2. So here comes engine number 2. Now, this might not be the complete exact way to do this. The PDF file on how you do the airplane is a little on the skinny side there. And condition lever for number 2. And there goes that one. So far, so good. We're doing pretty good here. And we got 3 sets of Assassin's Creed swords spinning on the wings right now. Good start on that one. And then we're going to go and start number 1. And this starts to pop up a little bit. Now, if you do go online, one of the things that I found is over at flightsim.to, somebody has gone and loaded a Dash-7 manual over there for a real-world airplane. So I haven't had a chance to jump into that yet, but I'm really looking forward to checking that out. And all of this looks good. So now then, we can go ahead and turn the starter off. The selector can go to off too. Let's get the DC generators online. Let's go ahead and get the AC generators online. All of our generators are all up and we're getting a charge out of our generators, right? So, yeah, get ready for the bad jokes, of course. And that's pretty much what we have here. We also have pitot static tube heaters, and you do 1, 2, and 3. The pitot tubes go on, and that's good to go too. Now we're going to go and get the condition levers to normal flow. So let's go to normal flow. So that's 1 level up, and that looks good too. We also turn on what I believe are called the engine deflectors. So deflectors are up. Phasers are next, right? The spoilers go to taxi mode. So now we're in taxi mode for that. And the engine bleeds, and these are up here. Got to remind myself where they are. Engine bleeds go to low. Engine bleeds are going to go to low. Pressurization is a little dodgy at the right now. So cabin pressure is going to be set to about 8,000 feet. I don't know that you actually set this. The cabin altitude will set it to 8,000. We're going to 16, so we'll just do that. And that's what I know about that. And there we go. We're all ready to get out of here. Okay, so go ahead and make sure that you're seated correctly. You can go and do all of your controls. That looks good. And let's taxi time. The taxi and landing lights are right here in the middle. So go up and taxi lights go on. And you can see our taxi light. And then what we'll do is they could have pushed us out, or we could try and do a taxi out. So come on over here. I've got my toe brakes ready to go. So push the side of the parking brake, and then have your toe brakes on, look up, and let's go this way. So looking that way, we'll release the brakes. I'm going to move my throttles forward a little bit till we start rolling. and then we'll just start trying to taxi out. And I'm actually kind of tapping my left brake too. And now throttles to idle. And we've just made our little turnout. And so there we go. You might have to kick it up just a little bit more. Come on, airplane. Add a little more throttle. Ah, there we go. And out we go. So one of the things that I also found was that one PDF file has more than just a PDF file. It also has all sorts of really good data for weights and balances and taxi and takeoff speeds. I haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but again, it's at flightsim.to, and that should be good. Let's see here, flaps. We'll just do flaps 1 for takeoff. That should work. And I think at a general speed right now that I'm using is going to basically be 100 knots for now. I'm going to turn on my flight directors. Flight directors just popped on. And I think when you click one of the autopilot panels, it also changes the one over the co-pilot. So you don't have to make any changes there. Okay, so far so good. And then we can taxi out. And we're doing pretty good with our cute little airplane. Now, this is a little bit like the de Havilland Twin Otter 2 in that this is not the speediest airplane in the world. So we are not going to be going at warp factor 10 here. There seems to be either two speeds for taxi on the plane, ridiculously slow or ridiculously fast. So you can see I've just barely moved my throttles up a bit. So trying to maintain a decent taxi rate here is a little weird. Okay, let's also do a quick check. My Logitech Airbus Captain's side stick is starting to develop a problem with the twist stick. Then that's what I use for my nose wheel steering. So I've kind of got a problem with that right now. I really like it. I use it with all my airplanes. It's fun, but there you go. If you look down here, it says that the Spokane VOR is 143 miles out. And if you look over here, it's also pointing in that general direction, which is kind of cool. Let's see, what did I do? 11435, 115.5. Okay, so all that looks pretty good. And what other trouble can we get into? Okay, so we got flaps out. Everything looks good. We got the pitot tube heaters. Now, for takeoff, your condition levers go full forward. And then I think after takeoff, they basically go back a click. At least what I've read so far. There's a spy pilot over on the Twitch live stream that lives in the UK and sent us a really cool picture of the early days of London City Airport. And apparently this was the go-to airplane for London City Airport. There were pictures in that little story of like I think there were 5 Dash-7s like this, just lined up and ready to go. So this was, in fact, later today on the Spy Flight on Twitch, we're going to try and take a Dash-7 into London City Airport, which should be a relatively good time. Okay, come on, airplane. Flaps are set, pitot tube heaters are on. All we really need to do is condition levers and we get to go. We have yaw dampers down here. Whoa! Like I said, it either inches along or, you know, you're speeding out of control. And there we go. Stop. ATC's called, said we are clear to go out on the runway. So strobes are going to go on. Our strobes are going on. And if we look outside, let's see, we've got a white light in the back. We've got a red light. We've got strobe flashing. So I think we're ready to go. So condition levers, full forward, and that's going to be 2 clicks. I go and basically go all 4 and then all 4 again is how I'm doing this to get them full forward here. And they don't quite line up, so there we go. Trim, I'm just leaving trim neutral at the moment. Add a little bit of power, and out we go. Strobes are on. We'll do landing lights and go. See, I mentioned down here is yaw dampers, and that's also the AP engage button too. And out we go. We're just flying along by ourselves right now, not in multiplayer, so we can just taxi around and act like we own the airport. I've been using the FPS Manager free application that's out there to manage FPS. One of the funky things that's been going on is it's taken my runway lights and my taxi lights and moved them about 150 feet up above the runway. So I don't know what's going on with that, so I've got that turned off now. Landing lights are on. Shall we get out of here? Throttles up a little bit. Let's make sure all of our engines are synced. Are stable, I mean. I have no idea what to do for a thrust setting, so we're just going up there like that. And there's 100 knots. We should be able to rotate. It's not a jet, so we're not going to take off, you know, like a Banshee. And landing gear going up. Little bit of a wind out there. Glacier Park up ahead of us. Maybe we'll see Flathead Lake when we make our turn, and around we go. It is also very nice to just fly along without, you know, it's really nice at just flying along without turning on the autopilot yet. Again, it's not a jet. There's about 150 knots. I didn't check the flap speed, so we'll just go flaps up. Add a little trim to keep our climb going. Oh, that was a little too much. The trim setting's really sensitive. Okay, we don't want to do that. That's going to stall us out. That's probably pretty good. So we'll come out here. And there is a nice view out to the east. Let's continue on around here. Spokane is the little pink pointer down there. Okay, now I'm going to guess we go to climb power, so pull them back 1. Maybe I should have staggered those just a little bit. Continue the turn. While we're at it, I'm going to go and take my heading bug and just put it right on top of the pointer for Spokane there. Since we basically decided to come out here and fly by hand. Icing, I've got icing turned on, and I did notice that the airplane will ice up, so we got to be sure and turn that on. And roll out just a little bit here. That should be the direct to Spokane right about there. So let's roll out. Okay, we're going to go heading, altitude select, and autopilot. Let's see what it does. Release the stick. Let's see. Doesn't look like it stopped the climb, so let's hit vertical speed. And we've got vertical speed, so we'll pitch this up just a little bit. There we go. We're pitching up just a little bit. Probably, again, not the exact right way to do this. And once I dive into the, those manuals, I'll redo this video. But like I said, it is kind of fun. Heading hold, it did not do heading hold. There we go. There's heading hold. Point us towards Spokane. Now then, let's see how we're doing. So are we actually going to Spokane? Let's go over here and look and see. You know, not really. No, we're really not going to Spokane now, are we? We need to be heading basically 240 degrees. So that little pink thing there is not pointing to what I thought it was. So let's go ahead and do 240 and see what kind of trouble we get in there. So 240. That should be about it. Passing 7,000 feet. We could probably climb a little bit fast. How's our speed? So we're climbing at about, let's see, we're doing relatively good right now. Again, this is not a speed demon. You know what? We should have gone transponder. And there's only low sensitivity. So on, it's either off or on. And that's your transponder. Let's see, does altitude reporting work? Nope. So that's got to be mode C if you're going to be on VATSIM. Okay, it is pointing toward GEG. We are 137 miles out. I think Spokane is, that's probably a GPS. Spokane is a high altitude VOR, so we should pick it up as soon as we start to clear some of the mountains. There's 8,000 feet. We can probably climb a little bit faster now. And there's about, yeah, that looks about 1,000 feet's probably good. And all of this is looking pretty decent at the moment. Coming up on 10,000 feet, we can do landing lights. And so far, so good. Not so shabby. So there's a couple of YouTube videos out there. A couple of real-world pilots have tried to take a bite out of this airplane too. It's been okay. They're having sort of the same trouble trying to figure out this side and that side. And another annoying thing about this is, okay, so our fuel tanks here are in pounds. But loading the airplane, if I try to load the airplane in kilos, it goes into freakout mode in anything other than kilos, excuse me. So maybe I'm doing something wrong on that, but at least this is what makes the airplane flyable and fun, and that's the good news at the moment. There's 9,000 feet. Let's see, did we set a clock on the timer? Let's see, there is a clock up here. And do I have a stopwatch on this one for elapsed time? Nope. So we don't have an elapsed timer here. At least not that I see. I have not been able to get any of the DME miles down here to work yet either. Coming up on 10,000 feet. That's probably close enough. Let's do taxi lights off, and landing lights can go off too. We could also, let's see, cabin signs. We've got no smoking, emergency lights, so 10,000 feet, I guess we could ring the no smoking sign. Let the cabin crew know that we're passing 10,000 feet. That's so that they can do that little announcement that says, hey, passing 10,000 feet, keep your seatbelts on. I think that the throttles just stay right about here. I haven't moved them. And I'm not 100% sure about throttle and torque settings on the plane yet, but I don't see smoke coming out. Oh, you know what I forgot to? Oh, yeah, we did go to flight mode. I guess I did remember to do that. I hope. The cabin is fairly nicely modeled here. It's a fairly decent little cabin. Let's see, no smoking, and so passenger signs, they are up here. So there's passenger signs up there, and there's another set a little further up here. I've got the pilot door open right now, and it looks like they also had two rear-facing seats. In the back of the airplanes, so here we all are. In the back of the plane, we have a door, and I guess lavatories. And that's about it that's modeled on the inside of the plane. Didn't see a gallery or anything like that, so BYOC or B or anything else. And still climbing, there's 11,000 feet. Next thing for us to do is take a look and get the weather along the way. So let's come on over here and do a search for KGEG. So we're not going to 18,000 feet. So we need to come over to Spokane and open the airport and go to weather, and our altimeter over Spokane is going to be 2978. So as we come on in, we're going to have to dial down the altimeter a little bit. Still doesn't look like we're picking up the actual VOR, but we are getting a GPS signal there. And I'm still not 100. Oh, this is ADF. Hang on. VOR and VOR. There we go. Got to switch these two to be able to track. So there's nothing showing up for VOR2, and that's pointing to Spokane. Again, I don't know if that's, I don't think we're picking that up. We're at 121 miles, and we still got a lot of mountains in between us. There's 12,000 feet. Climbing at about 170. Let's go ahead and start reducing our rate of climb a bit here. So we'll go down to about 900 feet per minute. And out we go. As far as handling the airplane, flying around, you know, no autopilot, the airplane itself feels pretty good. It's really quite nice. And this is all looking good here. We have got our other VOR, which I think is Wenatchee. Let's see. GEG is Spokane. What is the other one? Well, we'll have to look and see. So I think it's, so there is, that's Spokane. So there we go. It's this one over here. Is it Wenatchee? Yeah, the Wenatchee VOR. Okay, so that's pretty good. Ellensburg is to the south, and then after that, we'll start to head over to the Payne VOR, and then with that, we can set up for our landing. I don't think that the weather radars work or anything. It just sort of sits there, so nothing there. Still climbing fairly nicely. And so far, so good. You can change the trim controls here if you want to before takeoff. You can also set in an ADF. You can tune a radio, so you can go to 122.8, and you can fly this on VATSIM. And that's about it. Haven't played with too many other buttons here. The flight idle gate, you can't see. I changed that, but I think this is like automatic. Not so bad. We've also got a little barber pole here. I don't know if that's VNE or not. I'm not sure what that is. Haven't had a chance to dive into that one yet either. Basically, according to this, Spokane is still like that way. You can switch between nav and GPS. We'll just leave it there. Right now, my speed shows us, you know, I guess this is our target speed right there. That's what we want to keep it at. Which means it's going to be an awfully slow flight. So basically what we do is we fly along, and when we get to the top of climb, what I will do is I will pause the recording and you pause the play. And then when we get, in this case, let's say about 50 miles from top of descent. Oh, how are we going to figure top of descent? So we don't have top of descent. Well, we got to do the math thing on this one. So it's going to probably be somewhere between Wenatchee and Payne. How do we know when to start? I use the real simple math. So let's get the calculator for this. We're going to cruise at 16,000 feet. What is the platform altitude out here around Payne? So there's mandatory 6,000 feet at Griffey. What else do we have? Jinru is 7,000 feet. So why don't we say, I guess, 7,000 feet. So we're at 16,000. So 16,000 minus 7,000 times 3 divided by 1,000 is 27 miles. So when we get to be, top of descent is 27 miles from Payne. Now, this is also what I like to call a very squishy number. This does not take into account wind. It doesn't take into account speed. Doesn't take into account, it's just a really fast and dirty way to give you a number. If I'm in a jet, I usually add about 25 miles to this. Let's go ahead and do plus 50 miles. So 77 miles from Payne is going to be our top of descent. Well, according to the chart here, so it's 89 miles from Payne. So as soon as you pass the Wenatchee VOR, that'll be about the time that we restart the recording again. So we'll pick up the video there and then work our way into Seattle, because this airplane is going to be a slow going plane. So what do you do in that time? Well, it's early in the morning here. I'm going to go make breakfast. But what you get to do is you also should set up some wing views and enjoy the view outside the airplane. We're going to be flying fairly low over some pretty nice countryside. And it really is pretty scenic in this part of the world. So you can go and enjoy the view outside. Maybe it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner time for you. So that's kind of what it is that we do. Oh, and look at that, 16,000 feet. We made it. So now I believe we just leave it here at normal flow. Now our speed is going a little bit faster than this little barber pole here. But so it says we're a little bit faster. Let's also go and do seat belts off. So seat belts are down here. Seat belts can go off. So we can go and do the one thing in the lavatory. I can't imagine that we're just going to be cruising along here at this speed though. I mean, that seems a little bit painful. A little painful. It says we're 97 miles away. We got the barber pole up here. I'm going to guess that maybe we are picking this up. Yeah, I think we are. So let's see. That is our heading right now. What did it say on the nav log? It said 238. So we're actually looking pretty good. I think you can come over here and hit the VOR button and it will track to the VOR for you. This plane is so slow. I can't imagine that we're limited to 170 knots. I could be totally wrong about that, and I'm going to break the airplane soon. I don't know. So we're 94 miles from Spokane, and all of that looks good. So this is going to be a little short on the startup, and we've got a big pause here. So now is the time to head over to your galley, grab a little bit of food, and maybe a cup of coffee. Enjoy the view outside the airplane with your big old engines, and we'll see you just as soon as we pass the Wenatchee VOR. Well, according to that pink triangle, we're getting kind of close to the Wenatchee Airport. Welcome back. And we're still flying right now. I made a couple of changes here on this particular plane. One of the things I did is I moved my condition levers up just a little bit here. I mean, normal flow, I guess, but we were just kind of inching along, and it was, this flight is scheduled to be 2 hours and change, and it was going to be closer to 3 at my current speed. So also adding a little bit of wind correction as we head into the Wenatchee VOR. So I went and I checked that. I also, as far as the speed was concerned, I went over to the flight plan that SimBrief generated. And over on the SimBrief flight plan, I just took a look at some of the ground speeds that we were supposed to have. And 209, 229, 228, 252 at top of descent. And so like, wait a minute here. We're going way too slow. So I pushed the condition levers forward a little bit and then watched my speed go up to about 210 or so. And so like, all right, well, we're making a little bit of progress here. So let's see, our next heading is going to be about 227 degrees. So we're coming up, we're 3 miles out. So 227 is supposed to be, so 227, really? 227? 277. Yeah, that's a little better. There we go. 277 is going to be our turn after we pass over Wenatchee VOR. We're not going to pick up Payne for a long time right now because that's one of those lower power VORs. So there's 2 miles, and let's go ahead and make the turn. So off to the Payne VOR we go. Now we're not going to go all the way to Payne, but we will start our descent. And we just flipped over, so that flips over the VORs, and out we go. And we can also go over and let's see, Payne is, I set it over here. Payne is 110.6. So 110.6 is our new VOR, 110.6. And again, it's going to be a while, and so we'll see if we slowly make our way out on that particular radio and see how that goes. Okay, the only other things that I've really done is I went and I took a look at the weather over Wenatchee, and I have a new altimeter setting of 2967. Your altimeter settings are going to be a little bit different. Now, if we look over here, you can see over on this one, the VOR straight behind us, so we're looking pretty good there on our way into Seattle. But it is time to start thinking about SeaTac, so let's come on over to airports, and there's SeaTac, our weather in Seattle right now. And one of the neat things you can do is you can copy and paste weather like this into any notes that you might have. These are my flight notes that I have here. Whoops, that is for the Twitch flight that's coming up a little bit later on. This is for the, okay, Seattle. So let's come over here and pop that in. By the way, this is what I call the flight strip. If you would like to use this, this is just a notepad. Look in the description below and you'll see this exact flight strip that I'm using, and you can copy and paste it out of the description into Notepad and use it any way you want. So winds are 200 at 9, 10 miles visibility. It was raining there earlier. Temperature 7 degrees, a dew point 3, and the altimeter is 2964. So we've got that information all nicely set up. Looking here, it looks like we turned a little bit north. There's a little bit of wind here, so I think we probably need to throw in, how about, let's do about 10 degrees or so of wind correction. See if we can't use this to help us stay on our little pink line here. And we'll pop that in over there. The only other things that we could start to work on here is our approach. We're going to go for the center runway today, so it's 111.7. Let's go ahead and preset this down here. So I think we're probably pretty good out of this. So 111 point, nope, actually this is set up to be our next VOR. I should leave that alone for a while. Yeah, that's our VOR. That's Payne, 110.6. So let's leave that at 110.6. We need that for later. That way we can see if we're going to be out on that radial and give us a general idea of how far away we are. The distance to Payne from Wenatchee is 89 miles. So maybe halfway through there, we'll start to pick up the VOR. We'll see. And everything else on this airplane seems to be going pretty good. I did go and look up in the manual, the PDF that came with this. It does not tell me what this little barber pole is. I'm going to guess that maybe that's flap speed or something like that, but I haven't been able to figure that out yet. I did go and take a look here again, and this was the folder that came with that download I was telling you about, the Dash-7 operating manual. So let's go over to flightsim.to and do a little search here. And wow, that's the first thing that popped up here, the Dash-7 operating handbook. Data, speeds, and layouts. Everything you possibly could use. So guess what? I'm going to copy and paste that, and that is going to go into the description so that you can go and get this too. There's a lot of good information in here. I haven't had time to dive in. There's a big old 300-page PDF file. It also gives you speed cards for your weight of the airplane. So let's just assume, and I guess all of these, of course, are in pounds. Yes, of course they are. Okay, so at 32,000 pounds for flaps, VAP speed at flaps 25 would be 80. So we'll just go for that. But it does have those V speeds out there, which is really pretty good. And so there's some really cool pictures in here, and there's also a really nice manual that looks like it's the real thing. So that's exciting news too. Okay, so what's the next little bit of trouble I can get into? Oh, look at this. We're getting over here onto the radial. So let's go ahead and cut that by half. And let's see how that goes. And let's also go and see how we're looking on our little backup plan here. Yeah, we're kind of on our way to paying. That's pretty good. So we also figured that we needed, what, about 20, 30 miles or so till we start our descent. And as soon as we start to get over the top of the western range here into Seattle, we'll start looking for the downtown area. And this is probably going to be a fairly visual landing here. So what other trouble can we get into? Let's see. I closed out all of my tabs. Whoops. Well, we'll be okay. I don't think we need them. Okay, this thing is staying fairly steady here. So we're kind of where we want to be on our way to, we could probably go a few degrees. Let's go 3 degrees to the left and see if we can't center that up. Fuel, if the fuel gauges have moved, okay, so fuel 2 and 2, so for engine 3 and 4, they're down a little bit. Engine 2, it's down. Engine 1, it doesn't look like that fuel gauge has moved at all. So let's see, ignitions are normal, pumps, auxiliary pumps are all off. I don't know, the engine's running, so I'm not sure what to say about fuel on that one. Not sure what to say. Let's see, Payne is 110.6, so we are set to pick up the Payne VOR over on VOR 2. So when the indicator here with the double lines starts to point at something, that means we're picking up the Payne VOR. And of course, as I always like to say, have a good opportunity to look outside the window. Some of the Pacific Northwest scenery is just absolutely outstanding. It really is. So this has really been a nice little first look kind of a flight. I've only flown this once before, and I watched a few YouTube videos on it too. So first look, I'm going to basically say a fun little airplane. I think it was between 20 and 25 US dollars for the airplane. So I guess, okay, not bad. It's a fun plane to play with. It's available out there. I bought this as a replacement for the Twin Otter because they can't decide to sell the Twin Otter or not sell it. And, you know, I don't really feel like I should be flying an airplane that nobody can get. So this is my replacement for the Twin Otter for now. And hopefully the developers are doing some, you know, going to do some updates here. I do think that there are some things in the airplane that work that I just haven't identified yet. And as I dive into the real world manual, we'll see what happens. So, you know, in about 3-4 weeks or so, look for a follow-up video on this airplane, and we'll kind of see how it works. If you look around over here, the cockpit is pretty nicely modeled. So we've got a nice little door here, so I think we can close the door. If you look behind the pilot's seat, was there a jump? Oh no, the jump seat is right here. And if you click that, Man, that looks like it's just a little bench that you sit on. I do not want to jump seat on this airplane any longer than, you know, an hour at the most. You would probably get a real backache. We get a lot of really good detailing as far as circuit breaker, at least images. So all of that looks pretty good. Haven't really looked much at the co-pilot side. And again, I also mentioned in the cabin, it's nicely done. They did, you know, they did do the cabin signs. If we come up here, there are back-facing seats. So I don't know if there was actually a galley aboard or something like that. And there's lavatories in the back. Seating looks pretty good. There is a over at Sim Brief, I did notice a profile, and that's what gave me all of the flight numbers for the flight today. Actually, I think that little Dash-8 download that I showed you, it does have the cargo passenger layout. So this is if you had a half cargo, half passenger layout. So that was kind of interesting. Here is the seating configuration. So there's seats. There is a crew wardrobe. There is a buffet back here. So it does look like they had a small galley back here. So there's a typical exit there. There's exits. There is the cabin attendant's folding seat. So yeah, there's one little buffet, and then there is one toilet. So don't drink too much coffee, okay? And so all sorts of cool things in there. V-speed limitations. So here's our V-speed limitations. Maximum operating speeds. So at 15,000, our speed should be 201 knots. Maximum operating speed. Indicated airspeed 201. So if we look at this, there's okay, so we're at about 210 right now. So we're a little fast, but that's not what this is. Let's see, maximum extend speed, flaps 147 for 15. So what do we have here? That's 170. Is there a 170 placard here? I don't see anything for 170. Excuse me, sorry about the sniff there. Maximum landing gear is 161. So I don't see anything that's 170 to help. But this is really nice to know. So this gives us our flap extend speeds. So flaps 15 is 147, 120. We'll land at about 120 or so and see how that works. Hey, what do we have? Oh, this is Spokane, right? Or is that Payne? That might be Payne Field. Let's flip it and see. 1106. Hey, Payne, look at that. 36 miles out. So that looks really pretty good. It's definitely looks like we're a little bit off of that radial, but we'll just kind of go straight in there. So now that we got that, let's set up the ILS. And the ILS here is going to be, once again, we're looking at 111.7. So 111.7. Okay, we got an ILS in there, and we're all ready to flip that over there. Inbound course is 164. Minimums. And we have, I guess, a radar altimeter here. And that's going to be decision height is 200. So decision height is 200. There we go. Decision height set. That's at least pretty good. And we should probably also set the altimeter as we come into SeaTac. And that is 2964. 2964. 666564. And we're doing pretty good. Let's go and have a look here at our cheat sheet here. Whoops. Nope, I didn't want that. There we go. Actually, now's probably a good time. Let's do descend and maintain 10,000. So we'll dial this down to 10,000. You really got to spin that one around there. So there's 10,000, looks good. I'm going to reduce my throttles here just a little bit. So we're going to pull that back just a bit. And we have IAS. Okay, so we pulled that back just a bit. There comes our speed down. And now we're going to go ahead and hit IAS. And let's see if that descends us a little bit. And we may need to pull the power a little bit more now. And I think that that's just going to descend you at what you got. Okay, so now we're descending at about 1,000 feet per minute, 1,200. That's pretty good. Cool. And let's also be ready to get kind of visual here. We are... Actually, we can look over here. We're 26 miles from Payne. It's not so bad. Let's see. We're starting our descent. Let's do seatbelts. Seatbelts are going on. And, yep, if you go back into the cabin, you can look over here. And seatbelts are on. No smoking and seatbelts are up there. So there we go. We're all set with that. Descending at about 2. Yeah, that's a little much. Let's gently pull this back a little bit. And we're a little bit to the north of our course heading here. So let's go ahead and make a turn about 10 degrees and go this way. We could also put the ILS, which is 111.7, in over here. 111.7. And if we put that in over here, and then make it active, when the ILS is active, we'll get an indication again over on the VOR1 and VOR2 indicator there. Probably could go another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees and get a little closer to our heading to Payne Field. 20 miles out. And looking pretty nice here. We can probably continue our descent now. I'm going to let it continue down to 7,000 feet. And that looks pretty good too. Okay, so far so good. Kind of. When we get to about 5 to 10 miles, let's go ahead and make a turn to about, how about 210? And that should get us heading south for the airport. We're clear of the mountains, so that looks good. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to pull my throttles back even more. We could descend a little bit faster now. Good time for a sip of coffee. I think that probably, you know, one of the things is if you're trying to code an airplane like this, the skills to be a good coder might not translate well into the skills to make a really great pilot's PDF on how to operate the airplane. So, you know, these airplanes that are a little bit thin with the PDFs, it's kind of understandable that way, and I'm not trying to be mean. It's just, you know, we get these things that are a little bit not so great, but you can sit in the flight sim and do a fairly decent little flight and start figuring it out. And then with the resource, like I said, of having a real pilot's operating handbook that we can download, wow, that's even better. Okay, so here we all are here, coming closer and closer to Payne VOR. And we were going to make a turn. We are 12 miles out. There's 12,000 feet. Still going to pull these throttles back a little bit to get closer to an 1,800 foot per minute descent. There we go. That looks even better. Ah, are we picking up the ILS? No, I don't think we are. I don't think we're picking that up on the second VOR. There's 10 miles, so between 10 and 7, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it over here. So maybe when we get over Snohomish, we'll do our turn and see if we can't start picking up the ILS. Even though it's a beautiful visual day here in a flight simulator and stuff, and even if you're on VATSIM and ATC says, you know, cleared for the visual, 16 center, if you have the time to set up the ILS in your airplane, it's going to give you a glide slope and localizer. And even if you are flying, like I said, even if you're flying the visual, this just gives you another set of references in the cockpit to give you an idea of kind of where it is that you're going to make the turn. Okay, there's 007. That's probably really good. How about let's make a turn and turn to a heading of 210 degrees. So 210 should help us intercept that localizer, and we'll continue down to about 7,000 feet. And there's our turn there. Going to take this on the spy flight later on today. We're going to try and fly this into London City Airport, which was apparently back in the day, they had these things all lined up there at London City. Okay, so now that we're off this, I'm going to flip this over here. I'm going to go back to 110.6 on this one. So this is going to just show me where pain is. And let's go ahead and set the inbound course for the ILS, which is 164 degrees. So 164 is what we need on this. I think that little pink line there is a GPS. 164. Okay, 7,000 feet looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and continue and let us take us down to 5,000. Is that platform? No, it isn't, but it's probably good. Let's do 4,000 at Magnum. And that's one of the waypoints coming in. We're still going a touch fast here. I'm going to probably start slowing us down. So let's go to vertical speed on our descent. And that way we can go and start slowing the airplane down a bit too. So now I'm going to go more closer to idle. There's the Payne VOR behind us. I'm also keeping a close eye over here. And this is where we're going to start to get a little bit closer. And you could also, if you want to see where you are in relation to the ILS, you could click the two layers here. You can see we're about ready to show up here in the graphic in the chart. Oh, look at that. Perfect. So let's get ready with a heading of 164. So let's turn even more. Let's go ahead and use that little pink thing right there and see what that does for us. Clouds are looking pretty good today. I've actually turned my cloud animation and cloud rendering way down. Hey, look at what we got here. I think we are picking up, that's Payne, right? Yeah, I think we're not picking up the ILS yet. It should be popping in just a bit, I hope. Fact is, we're actually kind of overshoot. Oh, look at that. There's localizer. And we're off to the side, so let's go ahead and see if we can't pop that in. Yep, localizer's in. So 110.7, we're all set and ready to go there. Just localizer, so right now we'll try and fly this here. Our speed, we're still a little bit fast. Let's start slowing it down. What do we decide? About 90 or so for our landing with flaps 25. And I'm going to reduce our rate of descent just a bit. That should help slow us down a little bit. What did that cute little graphic say for the speeds? I think I closed that out, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. So flaps 15, 147. So we're going to go to 4,000 feet. That should start slowing us down pretty good. Let's see, is that placard in this airplane at all? Avoid an RPM. Usually they'll have your flap speeds on a little placard somewhere just for instant reference. Did they put it on the yoke? Nope. Okay. We'll survive. Let's see. Below 10,000 feet. Landing lights going on. There goes the landing lights. And we should stop at 4,000. And there we go. 4,000 feet. And can't see a thing. Welcome to Seattle. Let's use our little cheat sheet here and see what we got. Well, we're slightly off to the side. 4,000. We're coming up on Magnum. That should be pretty good. Oh, look at that. We got glide slope and localizer, too. So that looks really nice. Let's go ahead and make our turn a little bit more. See if we can't intercept this localizer a little bit better. Get this thing moved over. How about descend and maintain 3,000? Let's go to 3,000. Speed's coming down a little bit nice. I'm going to go vertical speed. And let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 clicks. Uh-oh, look at that. We're coming on around. Crossing that. Let's go ahead and line ourselves up. So 147 is our first flap speed. We're also at thrust idle, so once we get to 3,000 feet, we're a little bit below the glide slope, so we need to pick this up a little bit here. There's localizer, really pretty nice. Getting in a bit close. I'm going to do landing gear now so we don't forget. I don't have a bunch of really good procedures in my head about this airplane yet. Taxi light can go on too. And it was 147. Let's go ahead and hit approach and see what it does. That's going to center us up. We are a touch high. Descend and maintain 2,000. So 2,000, and IS is still there, so let's continue that descent. Uh-oh, now it's doing a little fishtailing here to try. Okay, I got the airport, I got the runway. Hey, we missed getting to see the Space Needle. Oh well. Okay, flaps 1, nose is coming up a bit. Yep, there is 150, so 147. Speed is coming down now. Generally, you take your props and put them full forward for landing. In case you have to go around. And I think we're done with the autopilot. AP is off. Speed's coming down another notch of flaps. We're going to have to do this by ourselves. There's our center runway. Let's see. The AP button did... Yep, the AP disconnect did work. Heading over Boeing Field. Let's do a little bit of a dive. And we were going to land at 90. Our flaps are 25, so flaps are set. And there's our speed coming down. There is coming up on 110. Start to trim this up. I've noticed that the trim is a little bit sensitive in this airplane. The radar altimeter has kicked into gear. Slightly off to the side. Gear down, 3 green. We got flaps all over the place. In we go. Okay, there's our glide slope. Let's moderate that descent just a little bit. Speed's coming down now. There's about 90. That's what we wanted. What did the placard say again? Flaps 45 is 110, so flaps out. I still am not that thrilled with full flaps in the sim, but okay, fine. Sometimes that's a little much. You're going to notice when we touch down on the left side of your screen, a little window that pops up with the landing rate. That is Flow Pro. Flow Pro is always a little bit mean to me, but there you go. Hey, I hope that this has been a little bit fun and maybe it showed you a few buttons if you're trying to make the airplane work. Again, it's 20 to 25 US dollars, so a little pricey perhaps for an airplane with a couple of holes in it like this one. Hopefully, like I said, the developers are still developing. But it's kind of fun to play with, so there you go. If you did like this, I'm relatively new here on YouTube, so all that like, subscribe, and share, that sort of stuff really does help. If you really liked it, there's a couple of buttons below, and a coffee kind of a thing if you'd like to do that. And if you really had some fun, please think about joining us over on Twitch. We fly every day at 1900 Zulu. That's 3 o'clock Eastern Time during Daylight Savings Time in the United States. Everything's a group flight. Most of our flights these days are on VATSIM, but if you're new, we also do some multiplayer flights as well. And certainly hope you'll consider joining us there. And I hope that this was fun for you. Again, learning a new airplane is half the fun here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we're at about 90 or so. Yeah, we did have a little bit of a wind from the right blowing us to the left. There's our touchdown point. No voice yelling at us about 30, 40, 20, 10. It didn't say minimums. Now I'm just hunting for butter. The airplane does have beta. There's beta props for a little bit of reverse. And the thing just stops on a dime. Just stops on a dime. Okay, let's do flight now to taxi. And out we go here. And my guess is after landing, we're going to go ahead and bring these back to normal flow. So we've got those normal flow. Okay, come on, airplane. We don't want to sit here on the runway. Let's also do landing lights off. And as you can see, once you move the throttles forward just a touch, all of a sudden it's zoom. So very fast. We can come up here and we're going to turn the strobes off. And off we go on the runway. Let's see, flaps can go up. I think the spoilers auto deploy when you're landing. And then when you flip the switch to taxi, they go off. Here at SeaTac, remember, we're crossing another runway. Even though I'm flying by myself, always like to remind myself to just look over the runway. And that way I'm always thinking about check around the runway like the real pilots do. And then Horizon actually parks straight ahead here at SeaTac, and it's going to be straight in. And cross the runway. I'm also adjusting this map now. The moving map in Navigraph is just priceless when you're trying to navigate a parking place. And Horizon is right ahead here. And you can see we got a gate right in front of us, so we'll just go ahead and grab that. Hope you enjoyed this. One of the things that I always like to say about these YouTube videos is we're flying a flight simulator right now. This is not real world. I do try to operate the airplanes as close to real world as you can, but unfortunately, it's never really about the right way versus the wrong way. This is about what works in the sim, and I hope by doing these videos, you're able to make your simulator work too. I'm still, as I mentioned, new here on YouTube, so if you've got questions and comments, if I did something wrong and you know better, I can't wait to read how it is that we're supposed to do it correctly. So I always look forward to those. And generally, you can count on a new video Mondays right around, noon or so in the U.S. is when I like to go and pop up a new cold and dark video is what I call these. In the meantime, I hope that you are doing well and you're having fun in your sim. We're having a lot of fun with our airplanes these days. They keep getting better and better and better. And come on, airplane, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. That's probably good right there on that one. Okay, so push the little button on the side of the handbrake, and then we're going to bring our props down to low flow so those things can go down there. Let's see, we're at the gate, so we should go to standby or off. There is no standby on this one. We should have also turned off that taxi light. Don't want to blind the ground crew. And now we're going to go ahead and we'll just take all of these down to feather. So there we go, down to feather on the props, and they're going to keep running down, running down, running down. And let's go ahead and start thinking about turning things off here. So let's go and do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these should all go off. Probably should have plugged in some ground power here, but let's watch the airplanes, the props go down. While we're doing that, let's also look at our touchdown point. And I did stretch this out. 105 is really good, but we should have touched down at this point right there, the two big white bars. And as I roll this out and tilt this up, you can see my touchdown point way, way down the runway. So we were definitely, but I'll take a 105, that's for sure. We can come up here and let's go ahead and do that DC, not the generator, external power. And that'll do that. They probably also do AC in too. And then you can come back here, and for a little bit of realism, you can look over there and open your back door, and we made it. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. And it was a fun flight. I hope this worked for you. Thank you for joining me on this. I hope your days are going well. Look forward to seeing you over on the Spy Flat on Twitch, and again here for a cold and dark video on YouTube. In the meantime, as always, I like to say stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.